The unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect truth is seldom met with. 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. So now we come to our last talk of this retreat. And for me, it is the practical side of how to be careful when we train with the law of karma, to be aware of the mistakes we can make. Karma, as we know, ties into many of the Buddha's teachings. And so it ties in with his teaching of anatta, no separate self, no permanent soul, Atman, that transmigrates from life to life. Impermanent. As we have discussed in our introductory retalk, Buddhism is the only major religion of this world that does not believe in a soul. And I practiced Buddhism for many years without having a clue what he meant by the no separate self. Our true self, capitalized, true self, means Buddha nature. As it says in our scripture of Buddha nature, you are not it, it is all of you. But what about me? I'm solid. How can I not exist? In Zen, Buddha nature is also called emptiness. And as Reverend Master Jiyu in the Scripture of Great Wisdom translated it, she translated it as pure. This purity flows through everything. It should be noted that Reverend Master Jiyu said that the Buddha nature is the fullest emptiness you'll ever know. So we have this emptiness of Buddha nature, and there is no separate self. Who is this me? Who are we? There was an ancestor in our lineage, and I believe the story is in the Denkuroku, who entered as a young child monastic life, which undoubtedly that monastery was chanting the Scripture of Great Wisdom. Because soon he went to the abbot and said, I have a nose, I have ear, tongue, body, mind. What does it mean they are empty? The abbot nodded his head and said he understood his question completely. Please go train at such and such monastery because that abbot can help explain it to you. In other words, the abbot himself was struggling with that very thing. So, can't we relate to all this? Understanding no separate self is hard to grasp. Reverend Master Mayan points us to look at our selfishness in working with no self. I find this helps immeasurably because honestly, our selfishness is often something we can see. And gradually we start getting ourselves out of the way, which is an aspect of no separate self. Sometimes we even begin to experience becoming the pipe through which it is poured, which is something Reverend Master Jiyu talked about. All of this partakes of what Reverend Master Koten meant, I think, or is a part of, not to believe. Not solid, not what our view is. So how does no separate self, Buddha nature or emptiness and purity relate to karma? Well, in a very basic way, if we're selfish, acting for ourselves, grasping or pushing away, harming or not harming, doing good or not, these causes create karma, which are actions that are good, creates karma, i.e. actions, which are good, bad, or neutral. That is the relative truth of karma, cause and effects. There is also ultimate truth, which is the experiencing of Buddha nature, the experiencing the purity and emptiness of all things, seeing ultimately that there is no self, only Buddha nature. Interestingly, when you study books on karma, excuse me, you come upon words like ultimate or absolute truth and relative truth. It's a way people talk about ordinary practice and the profound truths of practice. Please note, however, the common word they both have is practice, which all teachers and students alike must dedicate their lives to. Absolutely and relatively. There's no getting away from it. Ultimate truth can be defined as universal conscious enlightenment, what the Buddha experienced under the Bo tree and for the rest of his life. This is what he experienced. Relative truth is the law of karma as taught and experienced by the Buddha and by all of us in our daily practice. Keep in mind as we talk about it, and we have talked about this in other talks, that the Buddha experienced and actually saw the consequences of unenlightened behavior, and that it leads to suffering. And he cared very deeply about that, and the cessation of suffering for other beings was a motivating factor in his teaching. And he also saw the benefits of virtuous actions, and that too he encouraged. So why am I bringing up these two concepts about karma? It isn't a philosophical bent on my part. It's for a very practical reason. I have seen people go astray. People make mistakes. Lots of potential for harm and tripping up through the concept of ultimate truth, i.e., purity and emptiness of all beings. How can that be? You're experiencing something beautiful, wonderful. How can it be a problem? Well, it happens a lot. Very fine beings experience emptiness and purity, and they say, I see, everything is pure and empty. But then they say or think, we can do no harm as long as we are in that place. And of course, they end up creating a huge mess. As they keep mentioning I'm a practical person, I was in a kitchen cleaning up a container of cherry tomatoes because some had gotten moldy. It became an analogy for this very question. We can believe and even experience that all things are Buddha nature. We can know that the tomatoes, the cherry tomatoes, are pure. And we also know that if we put a moldy tomato in our mouth and eat it, we will get sick. We can have a clear, strong reaction to such actions. But herein lies the tripping for many beings when the situation involves something that is not moldy and instead is desirable. We can take action that we normally would refrain from because we say all things are pure. The Buddha actually taught this. Sometimes there was a story in the Dhammapada of a prostitute. Actually, she was a courtesan, much more than a prostitute in the sense of a more accepted, desirable person. People paid large sums of money to spend a night with such a person. Very entertaining in more ways than one. Anyway, she converted near the end of her life, and then she died. She did a deed of great merit, offered the monks food, and was sick and died the next day. And the Buddha said to her caretakers, "Don't bury her yet." And in 2 days, or 3 days, I can't remember which, but he had all his monks go sit with her body. And of course the body was decomposing. And the Buddha said, this is what you desired. This is what people paid all kinds of money for to be with. It also has this aspect. He was doing it not to shame the woman, but to actually say to the men, look, go deeper. You're just acting on your desires. Additionally, and what I'm trying to say here is because we can experience the purity and emptiness of all things does not mean we are exempt from the relative truth of karmic consequence. And yet this is a tripping point, so we all need to be careful here. Desire is very powerful. Even a little amount can cause harm, unintentionally. If you study the 3 pure precepts in the Jiyu-Kennett, Reverend Master's commentary makes it very clear that ceasing from evil, doing only good, and doing good for others or purifying your heart are about karma and its consequence. She's quite clear and direct about this. She knew. Also, I would like to read a quote from Dilgo Khyentse, who said, when your realization of emptiness becomes vast as the sky, you will gain even greater conviction that the law of cause and effect, you will gain even greater conviction in the law of cause and effect, and you will see just how important your conduct really is. Relative truth functions inexorably with absolute truth. As it says, perceptual truth is the conduct of Buddhas. So it's very important for us all to have this understanding of the law of karma. Now I'd like to bring us back to what Reverend Master Koten said about not to believe. Not to believe is holding relative truth lightly by contrasting it with ultimate truth. This probably doesn't make much sense, and so I think it would be better to explain it for how we practice not believing. So how do we practice it? When karma arises, we practice not to believe by holding things lightly, by tossing them up in the air, so to speak. Not believe means asking ourselves, are we solidifying things? What is the truth we need to pay attention to here? What is really real here? Again, when we look at the arising of past karma, it can be painful, especially if we see that we've caused some harm. Deeply painful if the mistake had terrible consequences. Thus we are likely to judge and separate from it. How could we do such a thing? Thus, the importance of just seeing, just being still. When we investigate without judgment, we see that in making that mistake, many things were happening. No event stands alone without conditions. Often, we were trying our best. In the investigation, we are with ourselves. We are with compassion. We turn towards it. We witness the pain. We feel the regret. With such an open heart, we offer it up to the Buddha nature to be completely cleansed, to let it go home. That is part of the not believe. We do our part, we see it, we let it go. Notice we did not try to fix it. There is no fixing. Not to believe, as the Buddha said in the Diamond Sutra. I'm going to quote him. Thus, shall you think of all this fleeting world, a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a phantasm, a child's laugh, a dream. Now I'm going to quote what Kumarata said to Shayata. This caused or allowed the conditions for his awakening to happen. Quote, although you already believe in the 3 types of karma, you still have not awakened to the fact that karma is born from confusion, that confusion results from consciousness, that consciousness depends on original mind. Original mind is naturally pure and unstained. It is not born, nor does it die. It does not concoct things. It does not reward or punish. It does not gain or lose anything. It is still and utterly vital. If you enter this gate to the Dharma, you can be the same as the Buddhas. All good and evil deeds, whether intentional or unintentional, are like dreams and fantasies. End quote. This quote is a summation of much of what we've talked about this week. It is our responsibility to know both that deeds are like dreams and fantasies, and that we own them and cleanse them, not separate. As with so many things, relative and ultimate truth work together. Thus, the practical side of such profound teaching. I have another profound teaching to talk about. Reverend Master Jiyu said in How to Grow a Lotus Blossom that at one point she was in a gray, dark hell realm. There were stones of hurts and wrongs from her family. She had a sense that she should ignore them and walk away. For a while she ignored that sense and started picking up the various rocks and examining them. She experienced all the hurts and brokenheartedness. And then finally she realized this is not helping. She put it down and she walked out of the hell realm. Later she was very clear that she had wasted her time there. This is great teaching for us. It is not that the past isn't helpful, and it is not to be believed. And we need to be aware that much of it is from our mind's projections, fabrications, and delusion. That's our mind. We have to hold everything lightly so that we can see what is really real in the situation. And as I mentioned previously, from my own experience, we often don't necessarily see the thing we need to see first off. So we have to give it time. Sit with it, be with it, investigate it, be still, and not believe. Also in relation to the cleansing of karma, the statement that feeling is the reaper of karma, that is both true, and it is also said, no doer is there who does the deed, nor is there any who feels the fruit. Well, this is like the scripture of great wisdom. I feel the fruit. I feel it. Hold it lightly. Not to believe quite. We can cook on this for a good while. That's all right. The teaching of no self, of the illusory nature of things, does not give us permission to act in ways that are harmful just because we see there's purity there. We have to practice refraining from all evil, from all doing harm, and yet things are pure. You can see these things go back and forth into each other. In cleansing karma, we see we are no longer the same person. In fact, in cleaning present life karma, it's important to remember that when a memory comes up or we realize we made a mistake, well, we're not the same person we were when we made the mistake often. We had different and various stresses going on. This is why I say no event does not have a flooding of conditions. We can see the deed and let it go. Love it. Let us witness what we did. Apologize if it's present life karma and we can do something. Great. We can clean it up. It's fine. There's no problem. We learn our lessons, but don't stop the flow of things. Now, I had a dream when I was a monk. I still am a monk, but it was probably 10, 15 years ago. It was very vivid and not like usual dreams. I saw a young girl, probably from the 1800s by the dress she was wearing. I was looking at her from the back. Her blonde hair was in braids. I saw she was very pretty. She was very ashamed and sad. I knew her father had been molesting her most of her life. She was standing on a rocking embankment, and there was a rushing river 20 feet below. She jumped off the cliff, into the river and drowned, and I woke up. Now, I believe that was a past life. That moment felt so real to me. Often, the seeing of a past life is so real, so different from our ordinary mind. So in meditation, I sat with her, witnessed her pain, offered compassion and merit to her. We talked about how that was perhaps not the best choice to kill herself. And yet, we were understanding. After a while, it felt resolved. We did what we could, and we went on. She went home. It's just something that needed washing. We can make a me out of the past. We can make a solid thing of what is not solid. And we don't need to do that. It's not that we don't need to respond or do things. Just hold it lightly and let it go. And that, to me, is again what I think Reverend Master Koten means, not to believe. Not to believe in the practice of spiritual life is not solidifying, not holding tightly, seeing what's good to do, doing it, and letting it go, letting things go home. We can respond to what arises without wholly believing it, with the wish to do good for all. This is how we purify our hearts and practice the law of karma with the whole universe. Now, Reverend Master Jiyu finished a week of lectures to the monks on the law of karma, from which came the chapter in Roar of the Tigers 2, which we've talked about, the deeper meaning of the precepts. When she finished, she said, "We've been talking on this for a whole week and we haven't even scratched the surface." And so with us, we haven't even scratched the surface. Because karma is so profound, it doesn't mean we should discard it or not study it. To bring such a thing into our practice is to know and honor it as the true treasure it is. So thank you all very much. We have made a huge and wonderful effort at cleaning. And may you have joy and liberation and peace from your continuing work on the law of karma. Homage to all the Buddhas in all worlds. Homage to all the Bodhisattvas in all worlds. Homage to the scripture of great wisdom.